Yeah, that's a guy that could be a big problem. So in your book, you just mentioned God, but God is not the only thing that you mentioned. That in the book, there's a lot of prayers in the book, and this is the first book that I can remember that I read that has so much prayers in it. So I have to give that to you. That's very important
Thank you.
to mention that. So, but then for you to have put a lot of prayers in the book, that means that prayer is very important through the whole process. So if you want to quickly say something about how prayer helped you in the whole process, how did you use the power of prayer to recover and be able to be on the other side?
Prayer is what I've been taught is prayer is like talking to God, meditation is listening. In order to have any relationship with anybody, including God, you have to talk to them. God wants us to talk to Him. He wants to listen to us. He wants us to express our desires of the heart. He wants our praise. And to build faith through prayer has been an essential piece of my recovery. I do written prayers. As you read throughout my book, I wrote a bunch of prayers every day, almost every day, in my book, The Pit of Despair, How God,
Yeah.
Prayer, and the 12 Steps Saved My Life from Addiction. And one night at 2 a.m., I walked to my file cabinet in the dark, turned on the light, and God told me, deep down inside, this little voice told me, pick out your file of prayers and sit down and count them. I counted 83, and God said, see, your first book is written. I put together this book of just the prayers with introductions, wrote a nonfiction book proposal, sent it off
Mm,
to a New York publisher, and they accepted it. But
mm,
they wanted a thicker book. It was 18,000 words, but they wanted it thicker so if it's in the bookshelf, you can read the title and the author. So I
yeah.
turned an 18,000 word document of
Hmm.
prayers into a 60,000 word memoir with the prayers weaved throughout it. And I did that in
Wow.
3.5 months. I was very focused. I was working with a mentor who taught me to block off 3 hours time on my weekend and dedicate that time to the non-negotiable of sitting down and doing some writing on your book. So it gives you
Mm,
time it was perfect because it takes me time to settle in. It gave me time to settle in, to relax, and I got in the practice of making a cup of coffee or tea, doing my ritual, writing. I would write at a cafe, the big window. I would go down to Capitol Hill in Denver and do some writing there. And it becomes a pattern, a habit. The more you do it at the same place at the same time every week or every day, you can instill some very positive habits into your life that way. And that's
wow.
my book. And I
That's
worked a full
very
time
powerful.
job. Yeah.
Yeah. Consistency, a time of the day, particular time. That's thank you for sharing that. Then you just get accustomed to that. It's easier for you to think
Hmm.
because when you're there, you zone
Yeah.
out and just like, okay, this is what I'm focusing on for that
Yes,
time
it
of the
builds
day.
momentum. It builds momentum in a positive direction.
Good,
If you
good.
start and stop and start again, it's harder for that ball to go up the hill and then it goes down and then I push it up. If you keep pushing it up the hill or down the hill, it's going to build momentum in a positive direction. If you do it with intention, with clarity, knowing what your goal is, and pursuing that goal and strategizing it to figure out how can I accomplish this? What needs to be my non-negotiables in order
Hmm.
for this to be accomplished? Get a mentor also because they
Yeah.
can really inspire you to and or a coach, a life coach. Um, Life coaches have
Mm.
I've been coached by 5 different executive coaches in my life. They have been
Mhm.
monumental in my change process. So I highly
Wow.
recommend you look at getting a coach.